feeling golden, lost in the moment. It's taking over me. Keep your composure, you know that I want ya. Can you just hold that beat? Just turn the lights up, baby. Let it go. In the nighttime, baby.
Hey guys, good morning. It's Michael Beck and
Chad Horn over at Ink Tank.
And we're here with Chad GTM, and we're back again. And today we're starting off the 2025 Restaurant Leadership Conference here in Arizona with one of my favorite people in the industry. And I mean, I've watched you from the sidelines for a while. I'm going to tell a little story because I love to tell us one. Mr. Don Fox. How are you, Don?
I'm doing great, Mike. Well, thanks for the invite.
Oh, absolutely.
And to know that I'm kicking it off.
You are.
That's an honor. Game 3.
The problem is the bar is going to be so high, everything going to be all diminishing returns from here out. But thanks for coming. Yeah, I mean, really, I've heard that you're retiring.
Yes. Yeah.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
What's the last time I spent a lot of time with you? You and I were in a what do they call it? An executive suite. It was an invite-only party kind of thing, and there was a Steinway. The next thing I know, really, this is before I actually stopped enjoying the devil's liquor, so to speak, the devil's nectar. But Don is an accomplished musician that a lot of people might not know. I love that.
That was good. That was going to be my lot in life early on.
Really?
A professional trumpet player. That was my first endeavor.
Are you a Herb Alpert guy or Chuck Mangione?
Oh, Chuck Mangione. Freddie Hubbard for jazz enthusiasts. Freddie Hubbard, my favorite trumpet player.
Did you ever worry about the Dizzy Gillespie cheeks?
No, I never. I kept my embouchure under control. I never had that going on. Or they'd probably be sagging down to here.
Well, you look like a frog.
Yeah, blowfish.
But yeah, we were in that room, and then everybody turned around. Is that Don Fox playing piano? And then a couple of drinks later, I'm crooning Frank tunes with you, and you're playing it up the star. It was so fun. I think we had like 3 sets.
I think the more drinks we had, the better we sounded.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you ever perform in a restaurant a Friday or Saturday night or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. We did, back in my gigging days. So I played with a band that out on the Jersey Shore and, the bar scene out there. And from about the time I was like 19 to 22 and was in restaurant operations actually during the same time. That's because I made virtually nothing. For some context, this is in the late 70s.
Right.
I remember we would do a gig in a bar, pretty sometimes a small place, and it was a 7-piece band.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, my cut for a night might be $10.
Sounds like
no, it's $10 in like 1970 inflation, yes. But
it's $20 in today's.
But I was not going to make a living off of that.
Wow. So
Gosh, it dealt me.
I'm going to pivot here on what I thought I was going to talk about, but we'll get to that too. I've often heard from a few people, I've heard, the restaurant industry is a bunch of mismatched socks that ended up in the same drawer. And I actually love that because I'm a mismatched sock, right? Yeah. And you mentioned you started as a musician and now you ended up here, right?
Yeah.
Just quickly, how'd you enter the space?
Well, as I was trying to pursue music, all throughout that period, I worked in restaurants. But my first job was working in a restaurant, 16 years old, washing dishes in an Italian restaurant.
Okay.
I learned some of the most valuable lessons in my work life then. I mean, remember, this is the age of washing dishes when you didn't have a dishwashing machine.
No,
never scrub manual.
Yeah.
Scrubbing. And I learned very early on, especially when you're washing dishes in an Italian restaurant, your best friend is the person who stores the sauce pot.
Why's that?
Well, because if you're
scraping up on the bottom. Got it.
And it is easy for you when somebody's constantly working. So it's the essence of teamwork, and knowing who's back, you have to scratch early on. So anyway, but a life lesson, genuinely, at an early stage. So it was my first job, and then that was my senior year of high school, and then I went to work for Six Flags amusement parks.
Okay.
To pay my way into my first year of college, pay my tuition. And got moved into management as a 18-year-old and went through 4 years progressing up through management, at the same time trying to gig and play, burning the candle at both ends. I mean, you work at the time, you don't, later on, you look back at in retrospect, you say, how did I do that? But at nights that I'm working a 10-hour shift in the park and then driving to the gig, and we're getting done at 2 a.m,
right?
Getting home at 3 and getting 3 hours of sleep, and then back at the morning. And you're doing all this, and without any artificial stimulants either.
So not even this?
Not even that.
Okay.
Just going on youthful adrenaline.
Yep.
That's shocking, actually.
Yeah, mine's right.
That without coffee.
but at the age of 22, decided music wasn't going to be the path forward. But I was succeeding in the restaurant industry, really based on work ethic and well, that simply put, work ethic, and that was instilled from my family, my parents, and said, well, hey, you know what? I'm doing great at this, and I love it. So let's make a turn and pursue that as a career. So I left the amusement park business because I thought, well, I should go work for a restaurant company, and that led me to Burger King and went to work in corporate operations. No, so this guy Pillsbury.
Yeah, oh, wow.
Pillsbury had bought Burger King in 1966. From Jim McLemore, David Edgerton were the principal owners of the brand. Sold in '66 to Pillsbury, so it had been with Pillsbury quite some time. And it wasn't until 1989 that Pillsbury sold it to Grand Metropolitan, which then became Diageo. They rebranded it, and then they've been through subsequent things. And it wasn't in the history of Burger King or RBI's, a little more recent, really, going back, if you trace it back from the 50s. So at the time at Pillsbury, and I was a multi-unit supervisor in the amusement park industry at 22. So I thought I was all that.
Yeah, King. Yeah.
But in order to go to work for Burger King, well, at the time they probably care less about my experience. And remember, I'm 22, and so had to take an assistant manager role. In their Tampa company operations. They were company restaurant operations at the time. And then started a pretty traditional career advancing through restaurant ops, to restaurant manager, district manager, franchise field consultant. In 1989, then was asked to go to Miami headquarters and take on a role in research and development. And that ended up being a 6-year gig there, serving a couple of derivative roles, but all related back to R&D in some form or fashion. That was a game changer for me in my career. It took me out of core operations. I was there because of my operational expertise and to lend that to project teams. But while there, I soaked in everything I could from every other discipline that I worked with. A lesson for everybody: don't ever worry about. Don't stay in an narrow lane. Don't mess with other people's business.
Yeah,
don't get in the way of people. But always be looking outside your lane. Learn as much as you can about everything else that everybody is doing. And I did that. It soaked up like a sponge.
Walt Disney said, if you want to be CEO of Disney, one day you have to work every job in the park.
Yeah. It has a ton of merit to it. And so I couldn't have known it at the time, but when I went to Firehouse in 2003, and especially originally as director of franchise compliance was the title. Basically, I headed up the franchise, the blossoming franchise side of the business. We had 65 restaurants at the time, and there were only 30 of them were franchised. So we were in the early stages so I was the first franchise professional to come in to the organization. And then within less than 2 years, became chief operating officer. And then shortly after that, the CEO. But in those roles, from the time I went into C-level management, having that background and the knowledge of how all the departments basically worked, gave me great insight and then into how best to build the team. As from the ground up. I mean, when I came in to run franchise operations, it was me. Period. I had no direct reports, nothing. I had to build it from scratch. So it was just such valuable experience.
You scaled those Burger King. How many locations?
We were at about 1,200 when we sold to RBI. So, yeah, that was quite a run from 65 in 2003 to just around 1,200 in 2020, the end of 2021.
Wow. Sorry, I'm dominating. So I apologize because I've just been so excited about Dawn. So Dawn, before we got on, we talked about the joys of retirement.
Yep.
But then how you view the industry now, like how has it changed?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I obviously here at the conference, here to speak on a panel, and I still stay really connected with the industry. I do some consulting, some executive coaching, both like franchising and
pull you back. Yeah, right.
It's flattering and humbling to know after I retired 2 years ago. Actually, is almost just a little bit over 2 years ago. I stepped out of that CEO role, so it's nice to know that your opinions valued, you provide some value. So I'll call it semi-retired, I guess. But it's so interesting now looking at it from this perspective. I mean, I was always engaged across the industry as part of promoting the brand, enhancing my own learning, spreading the word of our brand. But now I look at it even more than ever from a consumer-centric point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, that was always part of my leadership style anyway. During those years, especially building Firehouse, you need to keep that consumer mindset on. But now I'm continuously in that consumer mindset and trying to apply those or share those insights.
Yeah.
You can get when you're inside your own brand, you can get a bit of tunnel vision.
In a bubble even.
Yeah, and just and you're just not experiencing it as much, particularly your own brand. So it's fascinating to me. I'm very encouraged by what I see out there. I am very bullish, and I know a lot of people don't look at it this way. I am very bullish on work ethic of the youth today.
Oh,
yeah. I think it's just a tremendous set of people out there. As I said, I came up early in the restaurant business, in the 70s, and there were a lot of slugs I worked with.
Right.
70s, not everybody was of tremendous work ethic. But I really encourage it. There were great people that we had in the Firehouse system that we built up over the years, and when I go out and speak on college campuses, which I love to do because of good relationships in Florida, there were just outstanding people in those programs. Now, maybe it's a little bit of selective audience in that case, but I'm just highly encouraged. I see it when I'm out dining in restaurants. My wife and I, when we're out there, we see great people that are wait staff, and somebody's doing a terrific job of coaching them. And
is that you?
I think that's big. I apologize for that.
I have the meta glasses on. I didn't know it was coming to my glasses.
We'll at least get it farther away.
So Don, we're out of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, listen, we're RLC, and you're talking about the younger generation. What is the one thing you would tell somebody who's 22? Your 22-year-old self. You're back. Remember this, young person.
I would advise people to always give whatever they're doing 100%. Even if it's the thing that you're doing now, no matter what industry it in, no matter what job it is, give it 100%.
Yeah.
By the way, there's no such thing as 110%. Right? All you know is that you've now discovered what your 100% is. So
You have to tell it the Red October. They think 105% of the reactor.
And yeah. So anyway, so you give it 100% because, by the way, and then you're learning, and you never know how that's going to benefit you. All you know is if you give it less than 100%, something less than best is going to happen.
I think you and I might agree on side hustle culture.
Oh,
But that's another topic for another day.
oh,
Great, guys.
So before we wrap up, tell me you got a couple books coming out.
I do. I've got, I've published 3 books in the past on military history, but I had, right as soon as I retired, I got to work on a couple of other things. So one is another World War II history, a combat chronology of the United States 4th Armored Division, which my 4 military works have all been rooted on that division because I had the blessing of meeting veterans of that division back in the late 90s. They've all passed, but I continue my research and writing on that unit. But one that I'm really looking forward to is a history of Firehouse Subs, of the brand. So that I don't have an exact publication date, but it's in with the publisher, and that should be released late this year, probably early winter, and looking forward to sharing the story with everyone.
Well, if I can get you back on, I can press the book at that time. And I'd love to talk about military stuff. I have military stuff. Joe and I, our camera guy, we're both military. I was stationed right off the Maginot Line.
Oh.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
we know some of this.
I'm sure we know a lot of familiar places. All in the Lorraine region is where all the 4th Armored fought during the fall of 44.
Yeah, I was stationed in Mons, Belgium. There's a row of trees that go in. The joke in Belgium is that the trees that go along the road were to give the Germans shade every time they invaded. Don, thank you so much. You're absolutely the best people in the industry. We're so thankful to know you. Absolutely. 100%.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. We have another guest coming up soon. Have a great day.
I'm feeling golden, lost in the moment. It's taking over me. Keep your composure, you know that I want ya. Can you just hold that beat?